Welcome to Exploring Task 3, Assessment of Children's Learning. The purpose of this video is to familiarize you with the assessment task of the Early Childhood Education edTPA portfolio. The purpose of Task 3 is for you to show how you can analyze evidence of children's learning, provide children with feedback as to how they are performing in relationship to the objectives, and respond with appropriate instruction and support. The process I'm about to walk you through is found outlined on page 11 of your Early Childhood Education edTPA handbook and is described in even further detail on pages 29 through 31. After watching this video, I highly recommend that you read those sections carefully to further your understanding of the expectations of this task. Your first step is to choose an assessment. In Task 3, you choose one assessment and analyze the children's learning on that one assessment. In order to set yourself up to do well on Task 3, you need to make sure that your chosen assessment evaluates children's language and literacy development. In addition to this, we highly recommend that you choose a formative assessment that will allow you to give the children feedback and give the children opportunities to use the feedback to further their learning towards the objectives. We also recommend that you choose an assessment that shows children's use of the vocabulary you discussed in your response to the academic language prompt in your planning commentary. Once you have chosen your Task 3 assessment, you will need to develop evaluation criteria to determine how you will measure children's progress towards the mastery of the objectives. For many of you, these evaluation criteria will take the form of a rubric, in which you will denote what is evidence of mastery of an objective, evidence of proficiency in an objective, and so on. Your evaluation criteria need to be clearly aligned with the learning objectives the assessment is designed to measure. You will use these evaluation criteria to evaluate all of the children's learning in terms of the objectives. For the Early Childhood Education Handbook, you will select 2 children to be your focus children. While you will analyze learning for the whole class, you will use these children as specific examples throughout your assessment commentary. As such, you need to select 2 children of different levels of development, and among those two children, at least one needs to have an identified learning need. If you do not have any children in your class with an IEP or 504, select a child with a learning need as identified in your Context for Learning under the Children with Other Learning Needs section. This step is perhaps the most confusing for early childhood education teacher candidates because it is different from any other edTPA handbook. Because of the age and nature of the children that you teach, you need to provide evidence of learning that goes beyond work samples. This evidence of learning is to be collected for each focus child and includes a video or audio clip, observation notes, and work sample. Given that you have to do these for both focus children, you will submit a total of 6 pieces of evidence of children's learning for Task 3. Check the evidence chart on pages 49 and 50 in your edTPA handbook for further details. Even though you're only providing evidence of student learning for your 2 focus children, you still need to analyze the learning for the whole class on the chosen assessment based on the evaluation criteria you designed. This analysis is supposed to be both quantitative and qualitative. This analysis and summary is the basis of your response to Prompt 1 on your assessment commentary and will be evaluated by Rubric 11. Be sure to reference that rubric when you write your response to Assessment Commentary 1. You will be asked to submit the feedback you gave the focus children on the Task 3 assessment. As you can see, you can provide this feedback in written, audio, or video form, whichever is most appropriate for your students and circumstances in your classroom. This feedback will be the basis of your responses to prompts 2B and 2C on your assessment commentary and is evaluated by rubrics 12 and 13. You will also need to analyze children's use of vocabulary, which is why we recommend you choose a Task 3 assessment where children are required to use or attempt to use the vocabulary you identified for the academic language prompt in your planning commentary. If this evidence is not on the work samples of your focus children, you will need to provide an additional video clip showing evidence of children's vocabulary use or identify where this can be seen in your Task 2 video clips. Finally, based on the analysis you did of the children's learning, you will identify your next steps for instruction and support these next steps with research or theory. In doing this, you will answer Prompt 4 on the assessment commentary, which will be evaluated by Rubric 15. For Task 3, you will submit 3 files for each focus child, an evidence of learning file in the format of video or audio, observation notes, and a work sample. Make sure that the work sample is from the assessment you have chosen to focus on for Task 3. You will also need to submit evidence of the feedback you gave the focused children. If that is on the work samples, you do not need to submit additional files. If it is not, you will need to submit an additional feedback file for each focused child. The same is true for the evidence of vocabulary use. If this is already on a file being submitted, you do not need to submit additional evidence. If it isn't, you need to submit an additional video providing evidence of children's vocabulary use. Finally, you need to submit a completed assessment commentary and the evaluation criteria you designed for your chosen Task 3 assessment. Further details about the Task 3 assessment requirements can be found in your edTPA handbook in the evidence chart on pages 46 to 49. In summary, here are the keys to success on Task 3. You want to choose a formative assessment for which you have designed clear evaluation criteria based on the objective you are trying to measure. You will use these evaluation criteria as the basis of your analysis of the children's learning. You will need to show how you provided feedback to the children and how you will help the children use that feedback to further their learning. You will need to show children's use of the vocabulary, and finally, you need to talk about your next steps for instruction based on your analysis of the children's learning and support these choices with research or theory. I have included the rubrics that correspond with each of these items so you can see how your evidence will be evaluated. In addition to this video, you have a plethora of resources available to you as you complete your edTPA Task 3. Please make sure to take advantage of these resources as you complete your portfolio. I hope you have found this video to be helpful, and I wish you the best of luck as you complete your edTPA assessment.